Today we're talking to Ifayomi about aligning with your destiny. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Welcome to She Said That Out Loud. Today we have an amazing guest, Ifayomi. She is a committed 17-year devotee and initiated IFA Priestess.
That's correct.
Of the Yoruba culture and African spiritual practices of IFA Oracle.
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
And she is an initiated priestess within the
EgunGun
Society. And you actually have a long name. So can you tell us about that name?
Yes.
And give us the history on that.
Okay, so, well, first of all, thank you for having me on She Said That. It's an honor to be here, especially during Black History Month. I am an initiated Yoruba priestess of the African spiritual practice of IFA or IFA Oracle. And I have been doing it, I've been actually in the tradition for 17 years. And so it is pretty much who I am and what I do on a day-to-day basis. And as such, when you are, well, first of all, let me just say this. Everyone comes to this life with a destiny that they chose for themselves. They chose it in heaven, and it was between them and God, okay? Way before we were in these physical bodies, right? And so what happens is through the birthing process, you forgot. That's such a traumatic experience for both the child and the mother. And as African Americans, because we're not in an environment culturally that teaches us about who we are or about that destiny that we chose for ourselves, as we live this life, we get further and further away from it. Some people are called back. Well, we all are called back to do it, right? And we'll talk a little bit about that, a little bit more about that as we talk about ancestral reverence. But some people are called back, I guess, for lack of a better term, louder than others, right? They have what we call more ashe. So when they decide to take the steps or to go through the journey and the rites of passage of being in alignment with their destiny, that comes with a process, which, as I said just a few minutes ago, is a rite of passage. And a part of that rite of passage is getting a new name, because your name is significant. It means something. Our ancestors lived by certain tenets and protocols, and who you were and the lineage that you came from was paramount. And so the name indicated that, right? You can say, my name is Ifayomi Ifawemimo Egunsola, OmiMeji Ifayomi, right? Just that alone, depending on who I'm talking to, they're going to know exactly my family and where I come from, and if we were blacksmiths or if we were farmers or whatever, because it's all in the name. And so when you go through the journey or the rites of passage of aligning with the destiny that you chose for yourself, part of that is receiving a new name. So it is equivalent, or if I could draw the parallel to when Christians say you've been born again, because within that rites of passage, and don't get me wrong, in different, there's 26 countries in Africa, and God knows how many tribes and how many cultural traditions. So not every initiation process is the same. So I can only speak about mine. And that process for me was shaving all of my hair off. Some people have to get all of their eyebrows shaved off. And what that is indicative of is like a newborn baby. When a baby comes into the world, the baby a lot of times don't have hair, they don't have eyebrows, because you literally are being born again into the process of the destiny, of being in alignment with the destiny that you chose for yourself. And so my full and complete name is Ifawemimo Egunsola, Ifayomi, OmiMeji. And I always throw in, because I'm always honoring my ancestors, my grandfather, peace and light to his spirit. That was the first love affair I ever had, by the way. He named me Cookie because he said I was his butter cookie. And so my family still calls me Cookie. So when I'm writing my name out, I keep Cookie in there. And then my birth name is Antoinette Stanton, and so I continue to honor that name by because that allows me to honor my mother and my father. So my full name is Ifawemimo Egunsola, Ifayomi, OmiMeji, Cookie. Ifayomi Stanton. Okay, and so what Ifawemimo means, Ifa, in the Yoruba tradition, Ifa is the deity. So, you know, we have deities. Well, let me back up just a little bit. Ifa is, so you have like spirits, angels. We have the ancestors, that's one set of spirits. And then we have what is called in the Yoruba tradition, they are called orishas. Okay, and so to draw the parallel for your viewers, that would be like angels. Okay, these angels or these deities that we call orisha, they are forces of nature, so they reside in nature. And a lot of what plagues us as a people, as Africans in America, is that we're out of touch with nature. And so when we get in touch with nature, right, now we are opening ourselves up to other spiritual forces within nature. And so Ifa is a system, right? But the spiritual practice of it involves all of these orishas, because the Yoruba believe, and we're taught, Ifa teaches us that God, who in the Yoruba language we call Olodumare, cannot be accessed directly. Like, he's too omnipotent, too big, so he has angels.
So you go through the angels or the ancestors.
Well, no, the ancestors is something
That's
different.
separate.
So the ancestors is your personal, what we like to say, the ancestors are your personal Orisha. They're the first ones, because those are the people that whose blood runs through your veins. Now, the Orishas are spirits, but they're also, our objective in life is to be an Orisha, ultimately, okay? So, because of that, because God is too omnipotent to go to directly, we work with the angels of God, or in this sense, the deities, or the forces of nature, which we call Orishas. And so, in working with the Orishas, there is a way that, and even the ancestors, that we can understand the messages that they want to convey to us here in the physical, and that's through a form of divination.
Okay, and how are we able to hear what they have to say? Is there something, do we have to open ourselves up to receive the messages?
Yes and no. I mean, everybody is already open. You come with it, right? So it's just like we're all reincarnated ancestors, right? Ifa teaches us that if you go back 7 generations in your family lineage, you will know who you reincarnated as. Absolutely. Okay? And so when we look at photographs of great, grandmothers or great grandfathers, and we look at our children like, oh my goodness, you know, my daughter looks just like great-great-grandma Susie or whomever, right? Because we are constantly being reincarnated. And so what that means is you are them and they are you. So you already have it. Now, a lot of time, what has happened within the colonization of us, right? Being brought over on the slave ships, a lot of who we are and what we knew instinctively was beaten out of us. Right? And so, and we were taught something different that had nothing to do with us. And we've incorporated it. However, you know, I don't knock no other spiritual practice, no, because those things got us through. Our ancestors, they got our ancestors through. However, it is not our truth. So, we already come with this. It's in us innately. And so, because we've been taught by the oppressor that this way of being spiritually connected or spiritually enlightened is bad and ugly and it's dark and it's, you know, witchcraft and it's voodoo and, you know, well, that's a whole nother conversation because voodoo saved us. It was through the Haitian Revolution that we got free, and that's where voodoo comes from, Haiti. So, we have been taught that this spiritual practice that is innately and divinely within us, we come to earth with it, right? It's bad. And so a lot of people hear the ancestors, see the spirits, feel them, but they ignore it because they have been taught that it's something bad. Now, when you make a decision or you realize this is bigger than me, I need some help and assistance trying to figure out what is happening to me. Why am I hearing this? Why do I see this? Why, you know, that's usually when people call someone like me. And so my role, my job is to help, assist, guide, and support people in their journey of aligning with their destiny.
I see.
Yes.
So, what would you say to someone who is fearful when they start hearing those messages? How do you do that? Or is that something that's secret or sacred? Or
well, it is sacred, and it is also secret.
Okay.
This was, you know, we didn't, until we started inviting others in, you know, this was amongst our own tribes. This was amongst our own clans. So it is sacred and it is secret. I would, first of all, tell the person there's nothing to be afraid of. That's a learned behavior, which means it can be unlearned. But how do we unlearn it? With truth, right? How do we know truth? It can be verified. How do you verify the truth? Well, it has to happen once in the spirit and then show itself in the physical. That's how you verify the truth. For instance, I'll give an example of you're thinking, I was actually driving over here and I was thinking of something. I can't even think of what it is. Well, I'll give you another example because that slipped my mind. I was watching a movie last week and somehow my phone notified me of this story about this woman in Peoria, Illinois. She was the first black woman that was freed on the other side of the Emancipation Proclamation that Abraham Lincoln had signed. So I'm watching a movie with Eddie Murphy, and but I'm also reading this. And so every minute, you know, I'm still following the movie. I'm reading this and how Abraham Lincoln signed this Emancipation Proclamation, and how this lady, I can't remember her name, peace and light to her spirit, was the first freed black woman on the other side of that. No soon as I read when Abraham Lincoln signed the papers, in the movie, Eddie Murphy was in a meeting with some people, and one of the guys recited something, and Eddie Murphy said, I know who that came from. That came from Abraham Lincoln. In the very minute that I had just read it on my phone.
Wow.
So that's how you know you're operating in truth, and how you are in alignment.
I had something similar happen the other day. I was listening to a guided meditation, and it was a meditation on clarity. And I had listened to this meditation for a few days in a row, and I just happened to be outside, and I was picking up some paper because I was in my backyard, and I was picking up some paper, and I wanted to open up the instead of going through the house, I went through the gate.
Okay.
But at the same time as I was going through the gate and I had this paper in my hand, she was saying in the meditation that in order for you to get to the next level, you're going to have to put down whatever in your hand in order to open the door.
That's what I mean.
And I was like, I thought about it, and I was like, I'm going through this exact thing.
Yes,
and she said, in order for you to get the clarity and move to the next level, you have to put down all that weight.
So that's how you know truth. It can be verified. And that was a perfect example. So I would tell someone who said that they were afraid, there's nothing to be afraid of. This is our birthright. It is our birthright. It's nothing to be afraid of. And if you are, it's actually, first of all, quite liberating.
It's liberating.
Oh my gosh.
It's freeing.
It's freeing. It is, you know, it's
you being yourself.
Yes.
Living your truth.
Yes. And it's liberating. It is what real freedom is. And you know, the most important thing it has done for me, Amina, has, because when we talk about fear, let's break that down. We ain't even got to break it down too long. Because there's only one thing that people are afraid of. One. Right? And that's death. Now, they can mask it. I'm afraid of planes. I'm afraid of automobiles. I'm afraid of, you know, African spirituality. I'm afraid of, you know, dogs. I'm afraid of whatever it is. There's only one fear, and there's the fear of dying. What African spirituality teaches us, and what it did for me, it made me realize that there is no death. We just transition from these physical bodies back to the spirit realm until it is time for us to reincarnate again in a physical body. So can I tell you that once I no longer had to fear death, I didn't fear nothing. And so that was the most freeing and liberating thing for me, was that knowing that now I'm not afraid to die. So there's nothing you can do to me. You have no power over me now.
So you help people release that fear?
I help people understand who and what they came to earth to be, what their destiny is. Now, what they decide to release in that process, and if they follow the process through, and this is a lifestyle, this is not like, you know, one time drive through and then now I'm in alignment with my destiny. There's layers to this, okay? And so once you decide to take that journey, you're gonna automatically those layers will start to fall, those fears will start to fall off, and you're going to find yourself. I remember one time I was sitting with, in the Yoruba language, the word Omo means child, right? As a Yoruba priestess, my work in helping, assisting, and guiding people, I'm considered like a mother. Or so they call priestesses like me godmothers, or the male version is called. So first of all, let me back up. A Yoruba priestess, the title is Awonifa. The word Iya in the Yoruba language means mother. Nifa means someone who knows mysteries or secrets. So Awonifa, the word, loose translation, is the mother who knows the secrets, basically, of nature. Okay? Now, Babalawo is the male high priest. Okay? And Baba means father. La'awo means the father who knows the secrets of Ifa. And Awo is like knowing the secrets within nature. Okay, loose translation. And so a lot of people call me Iya, short for Awonifa. So basically they're calling me mother. The terminology for child, because they are my godchildren, the terminology for a child is Omo. Right, so because I work with so many adults, it's really weird calling them godchildren. So I usually try to call them Omos or refer to them as my Omos. Okay, and I had an Omo who flew from Atlanta to come to my shrine to have her 40th birthday divination done. That's another thing we'll talk about in a second. And so we're sitting at my table, and she's asking me about my journey in this. And in my explanation, because my ancestors are always talking to me, because in addition to me being a high priestess Awonifa of IFA Oracle, I'm also initiated into a EgunGun society cult. And what that means is I have a very close relationship to the ancestors. So they speak to me clear, like I'm talking to you. So I'm sitting there at the table with my Omo, and we're having a conversation. She's curious about my journey in this, and I'm sharing the conversation with her. And then I realized that throughout my life, I was already this. I just didn't know it. So at that very moment, my ancestor said to me, "You was who you already am. You just had to catch up to yourself." Yes. And so that's usually everybody. And so when you come afraid, but you have the courage to stick it out, because this is you aligning with you. And a lot of times in African spirituality, especially within the Yoruba practice of Ifa, depending on the destiny, how strong the ashe of the destiny of the person is, they could also be changing and shifting generational curses.
Ooh, that's good.
Right.
That's good. It's so funny because my daughter, we started a little show together, but prior to that, before we decided to do that, I said, Sky, you know what? Once a week we should hang out and do something, mom and daughter. And she said, "Are we breaking generational curses?" I said, "Wait a minute, what are you talking about?" I said, "Wait, I don't have it." And I thought about it. I'm like, maybe.
Yes, absolutely.
Maybe we can have tea together, once a week.
Yes.
Let's go here, let's go there together.
Yes.
Let's try different food together.
Absolutely.
We like doing that.
Absolutely.
But she said, "Are we breaking
Are we breaking generational curses?" Yes. And so the person now that is scared, because usually when people come to see me, first of all, I already know that they have a destiny to be some type of high priest or priestess. Now, This is just what my ancestors have told me. How do I know that? Well, let's assess the situation. I'm not on Facebook. I'm not on Instagram. I do not have a website. I just recently got business cards. And if I showed you my calendar, right, I am always working to help assist, guide, and support others. So, when a person finds their way to me, I already know that the ancestors pushed them, sent them there. Because most of the people that are referred to, most of the people that I see, are referred to me. Yes. Or, as a couple of them have put, once they met me, I had already met me because I was in their dreams.
Speaking of dreams, so
oh yes,
dreams,
juicy.
That can get deep
Juicy,
too.
yes.
Some people don't remember their dreams. What does that mean?
I don't know. That's different for everyone. It could mean several different things, right? There could be some spiritual blockages, some emotional blockages. Like I've been working with someone who said to me recently, because of childhood traumas, they made themselves not dream. So that they don't have to, I guess, whatever was happening, part of what their trauma was happening in their dreams. So they just, cut that part of themselves off. I mean, just that alone shows you how powerful we are as individuals. We are
powerful.
Yes.
If you can cut off your dream,
yes. And then there are some people that don't really dream. Now, just recently, my fiance said to me, well, prior to that, he said, I don't dream. I really don't dream. But guess who showed up in his dream the other night? Yours truly, right?
Oh,
yes.
Really?
Yes. So when you start doing the work, we call it, or, you take one step forward, the ancestors are going to push you 3 steps forward. You understand? And so, because you're not in this alone, you are not alone. They are with you, they hear you, they feel you, and their primary job is to help, assist, guide, and support you in the physical realm.
So let's talk about honoring the ancestors, because I know that some cultures don't do that. How important is it to honor our ancestors?
Oh my God. It's like breathing and drinking water. Like, to not honor our ancestors is a travesty to us as a people, okay? When you look at other indigenous cultures, Asians, Native American Indians, Eastern Indians, and all of the different descendants from those particular cultures, they all honor and revere their ancestors. If for ladies that get their nails done right away, for ladies that get their nails done often, pardon me, if you go into the nail shop and you just look right down on the floor, you will see an ancestral altar with fruit, incense for burning, money, etc. So most cultures most indigenous cultures take pride in honoring their ancestors, because they know and they understand that it is their blood that runs through our veins, that it is their backs in which we stand, and there would be no us if it wasn't for them. So that's very important that we do that. Now, you asked the question, how do we do that, right? There's simple ways, and there's, of course, more elaborate ways to do it. Most people work up to the elaborate ways. Like, I have a whole thing that I do, right? But it's really just as simple as talking to them just like I'm talking to you. So if you have like your mom, or I mean, some not to say your mom, but a family member that you were close to or whatever, you could have a conversation with them just like this because they hear you.
Okay. I know some of
that's the simplest way.
That's the simplest.
That's the simplest way. But then there are other ways, because as I said once before, their primary function as spirit is to help us here in the physical realm, right? Mm-hmm. But we have to be able to access that. And if we know and understand that everything is energy, okay? This is energy. Everything is energy. And so we have to feed the energy of the ancestors just like we feed the energy of ourselves, right? So we honor our ancestors, obviously, by prayer, right? That's the first way. And prayer is talking out loud, not talking within yourselves. Why? Because it's the vibration that is creating the energy around us, right? It's coming from our mouths. So prayer to the ancestors. The best way to honor and revere them, if you have family members that have transitioned and passed on, go to where they are buried. Africans bury, the Yoruba bury their deceased in the floor of the house. Right. So they're never gone away. And if it's not in a floor of the house, it's in and around the grounds. And then we as African Americans even incorporated that, because if you go down to some of the southern states and you're driving through the country, you drive past the churches, you will see cemeteries on the side, in the front, in the back.
Louisiana's like that.
Yes, of the churches. So that way they haven't gone anywhere. They're right there. So the best way to honor your ancestors, if they have passed on and you know where they are buried, is to go to where they are buried. The second best way is to erect what we would call an ancestral altar, okay? And that's something that you would have in your home. And it can be as small as you want, as big as you want, as elaborate as you want. And on there, that is the portal for your connection to your ancestors, is at your ancestor altar. And so, like for instance, on my ancestor altar, I have water, I have fruit, a bowl of fresh fruit. I cook them food like I cook myself food. I give them liquor because my family drink.
Yeah,
I should be embarrassed about that, but I am not. My family, they drink, so I have liquor on there. I have my uncle, he loved chocolate, so I have chocolate on there for him. My sister, she smoked Newport cigarettes, so she's a pack of Newport cigarettes on there. My other uncle gave me this beautiful lace scarf, right? So I have that on there, and on and on. So it starts to become personalized to who and what your ancestors were to you. But the basic tenets of the ancestor altar is definitely water, definitely some kind of food item. It could be just a bowl of fruit. And if you do not have pictures of your ancestors that you can put on the altar, having a list of names will suffice. If you do use pictures, you don't want to put a picture up there of someone that is deceased and you're in the picture, or someone else that's living is in the picture.
Okay.
So it should only be photographs of those that have passed on. And some people will say, well, I lost all my stuff in a fire. I don't have pictures of my mom or my aunt or my grandmother or whatever. You can write their names, and when you go to the altar, you call their names out. When you go there, and you can sit Some people like to sit and meditate with their ancestors every day for 5 minutes. You call them in. Oh, the other thing is candle. So when we're dealing with spirits of any kind, but since we're talking about ancestral spirits and having an ancestral altar, we want to also make sure that we have the 4 elements of earth, air, fire, and water present. Okay, so obviously if we have water there, that's that element. A white candle, so that is symbolic of them getting light. Okay, that, and it's also the fire. You can also have a plant or flowers on the altar, so that is earth. And then, you know, what's coming from our mouth, our prayers, our breath, or in the Yoruba, Emi is our breath. Those are now the 4 elements are present when you're going to the ancestors. So it's really that simple.
Okay. What would you say to someone who's skeptical about this and think that, because you had already mentioned how some people think that it's a witchcraft?
Yeah,
or
it's
something.
been taught. That's been taught to us.
Yes. What would you say to those people?
That is not, but it has the potential to be, right? And then I would say, but listen, the polarity of life is the polarity, right? So there is up and down, in and out, back and forth, sit and stand, good and bad, light and dark.
I get it.
Right?
So you have the good and the bad. You have both sides of anything.
Of
Anything
Right.
you can turn good or bad.
Absolutely.
Anything.
But the most significant thing in African spirituality is what we call Iwapwele, which is good character, right? So, do someone that hold the title of a priest or a high priestess or high priest have what we call the ashe, right? To do something dark? Yes. But they also have the same ashe to do something light. So we have that all around us all the time. So when we start talking about witchcraft, you know, my question becomes, well, what kind of witchcraft are we talking about? Because any human experience.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
right.
I know Maya Angelou used to talk a lot about she's not here by herself.
Peace
She
and
comes
light
on the
spirit.
back.
That's right.
Yes, of her ancestors.
That's right.
And she instilled that in Oprah, and she says it every time before she gets ready to speak.
Yes, absolutely. And it, I mean, because it is the absolute truth. And the more you honor them, the more they honor you. And I am, well, I would like to share something before we close. This year I'll be 57.
And you know I told you about your skin.
Oh, thank you.
Oh
darling.
my goodness, it's just beautiful. You need to see it in
Just
person.
a reflection of you, because I thought the same thing when you walked in. I was like, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful. I say that because what I would also like to share with people is that it's never too late. I've only been a devotee, committed, and a practitioner for 17 years, which means I didn't get to this until I was 40 plus. Exactly. I mean, it was, my story is, you know, how I got here is a story, but nevertheless, I was in my 40s when I really discovered what African spirituality was. And even then, I was in so much emotional pain that I was just looking for something to eradicate my pain. And Christianity didn't do it, Islam didn't do it, the African Hebrew Israelites didn't do it. And so when Ifa and my ancestors finally brought me back home, because that's what we call this, right? In the very beginning, I didn't even understand half of what was being said and what was being done. But you know why I stuck with it, Amina? Because it felt right. Out of everything, it felt right. And that's what continued. And then from that point, because it felt so right and I didn't even understand why, then that opened me up to want to know more and do more research and find out more, and et cetera, et cetera. And here we are 17 years later.
Wow. And that's how we know something's the truth, when it feels
right.
It just
I had a
feels
friend many years ago, a close friend of mine, and obviously this is way before I knew anything about African spirituality. And she said to me that when you are planning something or you're doing something, when everything goes smoothly and it feels right, that's the thing you're supposed to be doing. If there is drama and calamity, that's not something you're supposed to be doing. And so before I was a practitioner of African spirituality, I would always use that as my measuring rod. Well, guess what? Now I was able to meet back up with that same concept in African spirituality.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
So I'm grateful.
Oh my goodness. There's a lot to learn. So we shall be back. I thank you for joining us today. She will be back. And until next time, enjoy